Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching and whatever time zone you may be in. Welcome to another edition. This is back by popular demand, the Ask an Administrator with Dr. Dean Wilson, who represents our Center for Leadership and Learning. We do Center for Leadership and Learning every Tuesdays throughout the month when we get a chance to get these folks on. And let me be the first, or maybe the second, or the 18th person to tell you today, may the 4th be with you.
Huh? Eddie, come on now. Really?
Dean doesn't have a clue, as you can see on his whiteboard over there. Not a Star Wars guy, unfortunately, I guess.
I have some explaining to be given to me this morning. So
we're doing a live stream on May the 4th, and Dean just completely, as you can see, I've decked out the background for today's event. But we're, I guess we should have coordinated a little bit earlier.
There's always an opportunity to learn, right? Forget learning loss. It's learning yet to be discovered. So I have so much more to learn. I'm excited.
Yeah, I just appreciate you, Dean, so much. And I see you also have on the whiteboard back there a thank you. And that, right. And let's start there, right? We should always start here with this week because it's such an important week to thank our educators. And as an administrator, Dean, how are you, going, let's say a little bit above and beyond this week for your educators or your teachers? What are ways as an administrator you kind of instill those gratitudes and thank yous to those people out there?
Well, first and foremost, anybody watching this that's out there that has the most sacred job in the world, which is that of caring for our students, thank you. For the pain you've endured, for the struggles you've gone through, for the excitement that you have been through, I just want to start with saying thank you. Now, to answer your question, Eddie, how do I do that? You know what? I think it goes back to not just doing it for a day or not just doing it for a week. It's what are those little things that you do on a daily basis that really help fill your teachers' cups? I've got a cup here in front of me that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But as an administrator, I really do feel that my job is to be a lamplighter, if you will. My job is to hold the oil that keeps our teachers burning. And just because it's Teacher Appreciation Week, they get a lot this week, actually. And so for me, it's being very aware that what are the times of the year that teachers really struggle. So coming back after break, do they have something to come back for? One of my favorite things to do at the beginning of the year is I'll ask my staff, what's your personal goal? What's your professional goal? And what is your excitement level? And usually when I ask that, I put it on this I do it every year and people forget about it, which I love, but I put it on a little postcard and they fill it out and they turn it into me, and it's a way for me to get to know them. What I like to do is right before we come back from typically our spring break, I'll send that back in the mail, hard mail, copy that to our instructors. And they'll get that and they'll take a look at what was their personal goal, what was their professional goal, and what was their excitement level to start. And really this time of year, we got testing, we've got end of year, we've got assemblies, we've got COVID, we've got this, we got that, we got hit left, right, everywhere in between. Whew. What can we do? Let's reflect and really go back to that moment of when we're excited to be at school, what made us be excited. It's easy to start, it's hard to finish. And so really focusing on the end goal, making things manageable for teachers, like, hey guys, we only got 3 Mondays left. We can do anything for 3 Mondays.
Right.
So those are the things, Eddie. I mean, it sounds stupid, but you know what? Just an attitude of gratitude. It's not a day, it's not a week. It's the cadence of accountability that you create within your school. So I try to lead by example with that.
Yeah, Dr. Dean, do you find that, is it assessment season where you're at right now? Or are we kind of in the deep? I think there may be some sick joke that we play when we're having assessment season in the middle of Teacher Appreciation Week. I saw that the other day and I was like, yeah, somebody's playing mind tricks with educators everywhere. I love that. I love that we can have a conversation that is a full week of engagement with our educators out there that talks about some of the great things that they do. And this year was like no other, right? A lot of them were teaching in 2 places at once. Now it's assessment season. Again, I am married to a 3rd grade teacher, so she's constantly reminding me, like she said it the other day, 3 weeks and 2 days. So many educators right now are just counting down. They've got the countdown chain on the board, or they've written a number and they've circled it and they're changing it every day as kids are coming in. it's extremely it's extremely hard time to kind of engage with them. So I love that you're kind of sending something out, kind of hard copy, to have them kind of reflect a little bit on that. Are there any other ways that you feel really engage your teachers at this moment in time, or are you kind of taking a hands-off approach, like, hey, we know we only have 3 Mondays left as an administrator, I'm probably going to back off a little bit?
There's twofold to that. There's definitely no new initiatives. It's definitely we're going to ride the boat until the finish line. But at the same time, I'm going to use that T word, that 4-letter word that all of us have, and none of us know how much of it we have. Time, right? When I start to see those days, those chains in classrooms, and I don't mind if you have them, but when you call them countdown days, just change the cadence. Just change the words that you use. These are 15 more opportunities to help change a life, whether that's a student or a fellow educator. One of the things I really have noticed this year is other educators leaning in to care for other educators. It doesn't matter where you've been on the spectrum, whether you're a first-year teacher or a 30th year teacher, this is your first year teaching in a pandemic. It was everybody's first year. And so for me, I look at the teachers that have gone above and beyond. Those are the ones that are really viewing, the circumstances we have as less of being done to me and more as an opportunity to grow. So I think having a growth mindset in the midst of chaos is critically important.
A growth mindset in the midst of chaos. As you know, if any of you that have gotten to know Dr. Dean, he always has like the best one-liners or the platitudes, that just writing them down. I already see some coming into the chat, like the cadence. I love that thought from Diana here on our YouTube channel. People from all over joining us today. Kenya, we've got someone from Brazil. This is fantastic. So thank you guys for joining us. If you have a specific question for Dr. Dean, this is just an open chat with one of our administrators here for Center for Leadership and Learning. Go ahead and throw those in the comment section. We'll see them. We'll respond to them. But let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about educator self-care and some of the things that you like to do. A huge topic, right? Especially at the end of the year, the things that I think about that I like to do. There may have been a little bit, there may have been a few more trips to the water cooler. There may have been a few more trips down the hallway. I was probably spending more time in some classrooms than I typically do, just to kind of hang out, right, with the kids and just enjoy the experience at the end of the year. Those were my kind of self-care tips as a district leader, just being involved, right? So what are some things as an administrator do you do kind of at the end of the year, self-care for yourself, but also things that you might recommend to your educators?
I love this question. And for me, Eddie, it all goes back to how aware are you as an educator? Because if I'm not doing well as an educator, the odds of it rubbing off on the students in my care is going to be pretty high. And so I think being self-aware is absolutely critical. One of the structural things that we've done this year specifically with the pandemic is every single meeting we start with a moment of gratitude. And gratitude is an attitude, and it is infectious. And despite the struggles, despite the hard things, as you really sit down and center yourself and not just throw out, well, I'm grateful for, my dog, my family, my friends, whatever. But when you ask an educator to write down or to state explicitly what they're grateful for, man, that is huge. The other thing that I always do is at the end of the moment of gratitude for whatever meeting that we're in, whether it's a PLC or just a team meeting, is I always challenge that person to make sure that you make that positive deposit in that other person. Make sure that person knows what you're grateful for. For me, those are the important things that you can do that are free as an educator, especially as an educational leader. The other key when it comes down to self-care is I'm really big about asking my teacher teams, hey, how's your glasses? Are you half empty? Are you filled up? And how do you view these glasses, if you will? Because right now, if I were to ask an educator, is the glass half empty or half full? Eddie, how would your educators answer this?
There's no more water in the glass. In fact, the glass is a Sahara desert. Now he's drinking the water that I had left.
It's gone, right?
Right. Yeah, no more. There's zero water left in that glass.
The SIP or the screw it point, perhaps. Right.
Right. Yes.
You know what I always love to remind educators when they hit their SIP and they're sitting here with an empty glass, and yes, I will drink a cup of water and look at them and say, is your glass empty? And they'll look and they'll say, oh my God, Dean, yes, and here's why. And
yeah.
You want to know what I tell them? It's all good, baby, because the glass is refillable. You want to know what? Having open lines of communication, making sure that educators know this isn't a gotcha, it's a get you better. If you communicate a concern to me or you can communicate a need to me, I say it a lot, being vulnerable is valuable, but as ed leaders, we have to be willing to practice it ourselves. There's been more than one time I've leaned into my own team and said, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have absolutely no clue. I need you to declare your intent as if you were me, because I need you to help me make a better decision. Practicing vulnerability, practicing communication, and really going back to, what put us into education. Remembering your why right now is critically important. And remembering that, we will get through this, y'all. I promise you. I got nothing but love for everybody that's gone through this, but we will get through this. We will overcome this. There is light, but we have got to hold on to hope. And I see Marcus Payne or Dean coming in with a Notorious B.I.G. reference. Let's go. Yes. It's all good, baby. It's all a dream.
Oh, man.
We'll get through this. I promise you we will. But we got to keep hope and we got to keep the dream alive.
Marcus also has a question. Marcus, one of our great friends here with Center for Leadership and Learning, as well as, obviously the guy I co-host the podcast with. So again, he's probably obligated to be here on some of these. But as you think about the summer as an administrator, what's your overarching thought on work? When we say like work for teachers, professional development, trainings, etc., will you be more mindful? I guess, I'd also like to just tag onto this. Will you be more mindful knowing the year that a lot of them just had?
Absolutely. Our teachers are our greatest resources. And as far as, my thoughts on work for teachers, I'm going to be really blunt right now. I hope every single state legislator in America understands we had educators rise up and accomplish, and I say accomplish, one of the greatest tasks I've seen in my lifetime, which is redefining education on a dime. I mean, on no time, on very little lead time. I've seen educators do some incredible things. So the way I'm approaching this summer, I'm actually, I've said this before, but I'm excited. I'm heading back to K-12. I'm relieving my post in higher ed to intentionally go back to help educators and help K-12 really turn the corner. For the summer, it's a challenge by choice. The reality is some educators like the money that comes with some summer work. Those that are willing and want to do that work, I'm looking for opportunities to provide for them. But next year, I want my teacher teams to know I value a work-life balance more than anything. It makes no sense to burn an educator out in 3 years when you've got 30 ahead of them. We've got to make sure that the workload is manageable. We've got to allow a little bit of space and time to heal. And when we come back, there's 2 words I don't want to hear, and that's learning loss. It is learning that has yet to be discovered.
Amen.
And when we treat our educators as if we would our own kids, I think we get a lot farther. We would never tell our kids, well, you've lost all that learning. You're never going to have the opportunity. I don't care when we learn. I care that we learn. And guess what? It's K-12. We got 12 years to figure this thing out if we do it right. So don't hold yourself too hard to too many hard and fast deadlines. We didn't perfect education in the pandemic. We're not going to perfect our way out of it in the summer. Make it manageable. Cognitive load is huge. Be self-aware as the leader of what your teachers can and cannot take right now. I think a healthy temperature check on what they're willing to do is absolutely critical.
Yeah, it's where obviously people are, and I'm the same way. Like you're speaking to a lot of people's hearts here. But Diana Knox here on our YouTube channel, Marcus said, "Preach that." I don't care for the term learning loss, and I love how you're reframing that into a more opportunistic approach, right? I think that I can say, I truly believe in my heart of hearts, if you're an educator and you're watching us today, take some time this summer to just shut it down, right? This was a tough year. This was a long year. and a year that will probably always be remembered or always forgotten because of some of the things that you've had to deal with as an educator this year or an administrator. I mean, everybody's kind of dealing with the same stuff. So let's kind of move on to our last topic, which is kind of the end of the year tips. I think that was a good segue, right? The end of the year for me, you shut it down, right? You've got to, you need a couple weeks just to be with your family or do things that make you happy, right? Because this year has been difficult. You have been through a lot as an educator and administrator this year, and that can be said a million times. But Dr. Dean, what are you kind of doing to kind of wrap up your end of the year? And what are some things that you're obviously preaching to your teachers on things they can do to make it a smooth transition into the summer and just enjoy that time away if they're not involved in professional development?
You know, Eddie, I love this because my going forward challenge for my teacher team this summer is going to be to write a letter to themselves. I think we've all done this at some point in our lives, whether it's 12th grade history class or, write a letter to your future self. What I'm asking my teachers to do is to write a letter to their future students about what it was like to do something really hard, what it was like to have something taken, what it was like to have your world turned upside down, what it was like to not know, are my own kids going to be okay as I'm going to the parking lot at 5 a.m. to figure out a way to get my other kids, my 30 kids, onto their assignment and moving forward. That's some real talk and that's some real emotion because that's what really happened with our teachers. The sacrifices that they've made are huge. And I don't want to lose that opportunity, y'all. Think about this. This is hopefully the last time we're going to experience something like this in our lifetimes. We have got to use this as we move forward as a opportunity to teach in the future. Look at the hard second order changes we've had to go through in order to be successful, in order to keep moving. And at the end of it all, as dark as it seemed, our school's going to close. Is our economy going to close? When we open the doors next year and students walk in, what an accomplishment. What an amazing feat. So my challenge for this, as we move forward, going forward, take time, write yourself a letter to your future students about what it was like to do something hard in the pandemic. I can promise you one thing. Everybody will want to hear it because people will forget about this as time goes on. It will become less and less apparent. We'll never forget the impact. We'll never forget the loss. But at the end of the day, if we take the time to remember where we're at, guess what? We've almost written an end to that chapter and we have some blank pages ahead of us. So for me, my challenge to every educator, write a letter to yourself at the end of this year about what you've learned or what you'd like your students to know in the future, and then turn the page because the future's ours, y'all. If we want to reclaim the classroom, then damn it, let's do it. Roll them up, rise up, let's figure this thing out because 2021, 2022, that's when we put the pendulum back on the axis and we're in charge of which way it swings. So that's my going forward tip is quantify it, write it down, make sure you've got a good way to remember this, and then turn the page because what we choose to put in our hands is what goes on the pages to come.
Yeah, I love this quote here from Lorraine on our YouTube channel. Healing and recovery are so critical for all of us. And again, it's more prevalent today than it has ever been. And that's going to be a sight when everybody gets to go back, when we get a sense of normal back and we all get to go back into those buildings and students come back full time and we can see the smiling faces again. It's going to be a fantastic show for sure. I can't wait to see, because it was a scary time, right? It was extremely scary. And this year has been unpredictable. We've had to deal with a lot of changes and some schools are hybrid and some schools are all online and some schools are teaching both at the same time, which is absolutely crazy. But as we know, educators are extremely resilient and they find ways, as you said, to accomplish things very quickly, and they're very adaptable. I've always wondered, and I'd like to get your take on this before we close out. And again, if anybody has any more questions for Dr. Dean before we go, please feel free to put them in the comments section. I've always wondered, Dr. Dean, is there maybe a fear or a thought that you might have on educators that might be considering leaving the profession because of everything that they've dealt with this year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to know what? I go back to a saying that I like. It's called choosing to be a champion. There's one commonality that all champions face, whether it's fighting or any sort of champion, and that's time. We all succumb to time at some point. If it's your time to go, leave on your own terms. Leave with your head held high, knowing that you've done the best job you can. If you've got hit, and you've got hit real hard, and maybe you've got knocked down, maybe you got knocked out, you can still lace them up and keep swinging. You can still retrain, retool, reschool, and get back in the ring. Make sure you're rested. Make sure you're ready. Take the time to recover. Every fighter will tell you it takes a few weeks to get well after a fight, but heal and then start to drill. I mean, at the end of the day, we've still got students that are coming into our buildings. At the end of the day, what we choose to do with them is our choice. Don't forget, every champion starts out as a contender. Every contender needs a champion in their life. So if you're leaving feeling good, take a look around you and see who might need a lift. And at the end of the day, if you got knocked down, it's not a fail. It's a first attempt in learning. It's an opportunity to move forward.
All right. Before we leave, Marcus is always prompting you with questions here, sprinkling them in. I love it.
Right.
Let's leave with a positive, or lead with something that we can recommend to people watching today. What's one thing in Canvas specifically that you'd recommend for a new administrator to learn and then implement for next year?
I'm going to tell you what right now. I know there's a ton of people that are out there saying, well, what would I do with Canvas? And is Canvas going to go away? And oh my gosh, let me tell you all something. Canvas is going to be the future. It is the present and the future. If I was an administrator and I was coming into a situation where I was wondering, what am I going to do moving forward with Canvas? I would enroll my administrators, my movers and shakers, those decision makers in the Center for Leadership for Learning's Virtual Canvas Leadership Institute. If we're able to do them on site at some point, those are where you're going to get the tips and tricks from the experts that have implemented, and really the best practices for how to either relaunch, keep going, or perhaps retool. There's a lot of ways to look at this, but there is good resources out there. So I would definitely take a look at what the Center for Leadership and Learning has to offer, and figure out a way to get some of your administrators in there. The most critical people in your building are your teachers. Say thank you to them. The best way you can support them is by better understanding what they do every day. That gift of perspective can lead to empathy for a lot of educators. So I would definitely look for some internal PD for myself as an admin that can help me lead more effectively. And we have that in place for the Center for Leadership and Learning.
Yeah, the VCLI is so important. We've talked about it before, but if you're interested in learning more about that, we've actually had we've had one live stream specifically with the state of Alaska, who recently kind of went through the VCLI. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check out that kind of shameless plug here for the Alaska VCLI. We're also planning another one of those coming up shortly. So keep an eye. As long as you're subscribed to the channel or you like all the stuff and you share the stuff that we have, should be able to get notified. So liking the Canvas page, Instructure page, Mastery Connect, all of the places that we're at today, streaming on all 8 of our social media platforms. So Dr. Dean, thank you for saying that. It was a great segue into promoting some of the other events we have coming up, which are great. As always, we love having you, dude. This is so much fun to get to spend some time with you. It's again, backed by popular demand. We get so many, responses and requests. Got to get Dr. Dean back. Let's do another Ask an Administrator. And what better way to do one during Teacher Appreciation Week? Because we here, as I know, one of the reasons I used to be a customer, right? I love the product. And then when I became part of the company, I love the work that we do, because we do appreciate everything that every educator, every administrator, everyone in a school does. And this week is so special for teachers to be able to recognize them and appreciate some of the great things that they're doing. Keep an eye on a lot of social media channels this week. There will be some special stuff coming up through the Canvas platform, as well as Instructure. We've got lots of thank yous coming in. Thank you from Dr. Dean. Somebody from Austin, Texas joining us. Fantastic. Hopefully you were dodging the storms. They've been everywhere this week. We had a few here last night as well. But thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, keep learning and keep watching these streams. Dr. Dean, thanks again.
Thanks, y'all.